as we look at social purpose, the social enterprise, there's no doubt that technology plays a huge part in that. So technology cannot be taken out of the topic of corporate social responsibility that pays dividends. So I'm just, I can move it. I don't actually have to stand in front of that, do I? Because it's here. Excellent. So just moving on, this should be working. No sound here, but I just want you to, if you just go back a second, sorry. Just take a look at that just for a few seconds. Should be moving. Okay, why do you think we're just putting up what is it? What comes to mind when you look at that image? Global. Space. And the world, global space, and the world looks kind of quite small when you look at it like that and unified. And the point of this is very much the next 40 minutes will be about South Africa and corporate social investment. But it is a global issue, and I really want to highlight that undoubtedly some of our challenges are deeper or different, but the issue of the social enterprise is a global one. As I talk over the next while, I'm going to use 3 data sources. I'm going to use the Deloitte Human Capital Trends. I'm going to use the Deloitte 2030 Global Purpose Report, as well as our millennial survey, where we survey 11,000 millennials from over 30 countries, including South Africa. So those are the data sources I'll use over the next while. So Ban Ki-moon, and I think this is really the point of that image, talks about the agenda for all of us globally, is around eradicating poverty. It's about an agenda for our planet, our common home. And I think when we think about that as a common humanity, with one home, there is no other home, that is it. You know, when we destroy that one, I don't know where we go from there, but it is really we are a common humanity with only one planet. And this is kind of the ethos behind this rise in the social enterprise. The Deloitte Human Capital report this year, I think you know it's run every year, also over 10,000 participants. And we look at trends across HR. And very often it's been things around performance management, talent, leadership, culture. And this year, really rising to the top is something bigger than HR. That HR undoubtedly needs to drive. But it's the issues very much coming through in the report are around social issues, how we engage with our society, our communities, our stakeholders. So beyond the traditional kind of HR stuff into a bigger agenda, and I think you only need to look at how many, including Sassel, how many HR directors are also the CSI and the stakeholder and often even the regulatory leader of that business, to know that these worlds, our stakeholders are very often. In fact, the difference between customers and employees is becoming less wide and less of a chasm. All of our stakeholders need to be managed in an integrated way. So just very quickly, a social enterprise, and then I want to dive into the research. So the social enterprise, so the Deloitte Human Capital report this year is called The Rise of the Social Enterprise. And I'm going to give you the link, so I would encourage you to go and look at the report. It's there, it's a great read. It's a long read, so that'll be a prize next year for anyone who gets to the end of the report without looking at the summaries. But really, the social enterprise is an enterprise that combines their sort of responsible revenue making with effective management of stakeholders and the environment. They play a role beyond their corporation to listen to, shape, and navigate a broader change agenda in the world. And they are very clear about their role as role models, promoting collaboration and good corporate citizenship. So that's kind of some definitions, but I want to get more into the research and some examples. So I think this is a really useful picture to me to think about in your own organization, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, how the world's changing. And this is kind of the summary of the human capital trends. And it basically says, if you think about on the bottom axis, we're moving increasingly as organizations from very functional models in our organization to what we call symphonic models. So I'm no musical person, but a symphony, what does it make you think of, a symphony? It's coordinated, it's integrated. So a symphony, so the new wording is we're moving from functional silos to a symphonic organization. Think about all those parts of the is it a symphony, that thing? Yes, that thing. Yes, an orchestra. Thank you, Tebogo. Think about those parts of the orchestra. So very much, and Tebogo, talked about how increasingly HR, finance, business development, product development, pricing, regulatory are all working together to solve common problems. So in simple terms, we're becoming more cross-functional, right? And our executives need to think cross-functionally. It's no more about executives saying, okay, I'm now talking about finance, and I'm going to sit down when I've finished and, let other people go and stand up and face the music around their functional areas. Increasingly, executives are being expected to play a broader role with a broader remit and a cross-functional remit. And then up the y-axis, that guy is moving from a traditional enterprise to an ecosystem. And how many of you have used the word ecosystem in your businesses? Heard that word? I'm certainly starting to hear it more in my clients. So the idea being there, away from an enterprise where a lot of the talent and the thinking and the work gets delivered in that organization, to partnerships with other organizations. So increasingly I see, for instance, in the telecommunications organizations, a lot of the high-tech organizations, a lot of their new capability is around managing ecosystems. So how do I manage the partnerships with tech providers? I need to provide a healthcare solution as a telco. I need to partner with healthcare providers because, I'm trying to add value-added services. So it's not just about voice or data I'm providing to my customer. Let me provide healthcare services. I need to partner with a healthcare organization. So I think our role as HR, this is to me a useful picture to remind us that increasingly we're moving up to be a social enterprise where the organization is more cross-functional, removing silos, and even our boundaries to the outside are becoming more permeable. So a lot of our role with HR is how do we help the organization to manage partnerships with other organizations. Does it make sense? And perhaps just one last point on this slide, and I'll move on. This is not just about altruism, doing good because, for good's sake. There's a real business case here. You just think about data out there. So the organization is no longer a bubble that can hide its dirty laundry. The organization and what it does is visible in nanoseconds through social media. Okay, so you only have to think about the techie town issue, how quickly that became an issue for the broader organization. You need one racist in your organization to shut it down in less than a week. Hello Peter, Indeed, Glassdoor are all sites where you can go and look at how customers rate you or employee or current or potential employees rate you. So that information's out there about your business. It's an open system, so we need to manage that. Okay, very quickly on the human capital trends, and now you don't even have to read the 150 pages because I'll just give you the snapshot. Really, this year's survey says that there's one leadership mindset and 3 major themes, and there are 9 trends in those themes. So each theme has 3 trends. So the overall mindset is this symphonic C-suite, and I've really covered that. The role of the executive and management teams changes to how are we all accountable to deliver on an agenda. On the themes, 3 themes. The power of the individual. So the power of the individual to destroy your business, as we've just talked about. The power of the individual in terms of scarce skills. So Tebogo talked about data scientists. Increasingly, we're going to have to need to the power of the individual to voice comments on Indoor, on Glassdoor, on Indeed, about your company. So the individual, through technology, can have an incredibly strong voice around your business. And we need to cater to that power of the individual in our society. How do we provide different work experiences, different careers? How do we look at different talent models to get those data scientists? How do we think differently about those millennials coming in? Filling society's leadership gap is theme number 2, and that's really the core of this. So this issue that government cannot provide all of the services and needs to partner with private sector and other organizations is not just a South African thing. It's a global thing. So increasingly, enterprises need to step up to the role of providing a broader, purpose-driven role in society, filling educational gaps, filling healthcare gaps, and leveraging technology. So again, Tebogo talked a lot about, well, of course, this whole few days has been about technology and the 4th Industrial Revolution. So so AI, robotics, automation are there. There's also the power that technology can provide in terms of enhanced engagement and communication, as Tebogo talked about. And the power of people data and how we can leverage that for better employee experience. So just one snapshot then on the human capital trends, and I want to move on to the second sort of piece of report. So 88% of South African organizations said that citizenship and social impact were very important, or were important. But interestingly, only 1 in 5 South African organizations have some sort of CSI as a part of their core strategy. So only 20% of organizations have CSI in their key strategic themes or pillars. And I think there's a gap there. Secondly, only 30% said that they really felt their CSI, while they had CSI programs, only 30% felt that they were well executed or well delivered. Okay. So there's a gap there between importance, 88%, and 1 in 5 saying, actually, it's a part of our strategy, only 1 in 5, and only 1 in 3 saying we're executing that stuff well. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a video here from the trends. Whoops. If that should play.
There are several ways Patagonia goes beyond what would typically be the traditional rewards, benefits, pay, and part of it's embedded in the culture at Patagonia. We have on-site childcare. It's really around a philosophy that you can parent all the time. We have a culture of, if the surf is up, then go surf. So we, allow those things to happen. We have a lot of people who want to do things for the environment. So after a year, as you've been with the company, we'll pay for 2 months of leave so that you can volunteer. We recently put one in place called 980, where we close the office every other Friday.
Okay, so just a very quick covering on our 2030 purpose report, and really all this says is that those organizations who pursue a purpose-driven mindset are more successful. And I'm going to show you that data now, but I'll use the Deloitte experience. We've got a new, he's 2 years old now, chief executive globally of 250,000 people, which is how big Deloitte is globally. And he's very proud to say he's the first brown CEO in a very white organization. And one of the biggest things he's driven is a purpose. And he's involved 250,000 people. And you can ask any Deloitte employee globally. I hope this is the answer. I hope they tell you the right answer. Our purpose is to make an impact that matters. And he drives that as his single biggest agenda. In fact, that's all he does is drive our purpose. And I'm going to show you the results around purpose-driven organizations now. But just in terms of some thoughts around how you drive purpose, you've got to inspire the business around that. Gather input. So it's not an outside-in thing. It's an inside-out thing. What are the stories around our purpose? And how do we bring them to life in some sort of purpose statement? Make sure it makes a genuine impact. Measure that, communicate that, engage. So our CEO, our global CEO, every communication he has with us has something around making an impact that matters. It's central. In terms of why we should, in fact, I'll come to some more stats around why we should care about corporate social investment, because it makes profit sense. So I'm going to tell you that in a minute. But just one other data source, our millennial survey. So the other reason that CSI and in our businesses or in our organizations makes good sense is because our millennials tell us so. So we know that millennials are 50% of the workforce and growing every year. Let's see what millennials say. So this is our millennial survey. 86% of millennials saying they believe business should have a bigger role in poverty alleviation, inequality, environmental issues. Millennials who believe that their employer supports the local community are 38% more likely to stay at that employer for 5 years. That's real, tangible data. That's global data, but a good response rate from South Africa. So our millennials, our employees, are asking us, do good. In fact, 38% of us will stay 5 years longer if we see you're investing in the local community. That's Rand returns there. This year, our millennial survey showed, disappointingly, that they believe that there's been a downturn in businesses' commitment to corporate social investment. So 15% this year said that, response to the statement this year that business leaders are committed to helping improve society. The positive rating dropped by 15%. The response to the item that millennials believe that businesses behave in an ethical manner dropped by 17%. So millennials are saying we need this societal, social enterprise. We want to work for these social enterprises. But we're seeing a drop. And I'm not going to go through the detail of the blue and the yellow there, but the blue is basically what millennials are saying, the stated purpose of the business, and the yellow is the delivery, around generating jobs, improving society, generating profits. And I'll leave that one. A quick video, and then I want to go into some more data for you. And as always, these slides will be will be available through the IPM. So if there's data you want to and can use in your organizations to motivate for a social enterprise, please do, because that's the point, right? To collaborate and work with each other, to bring data to make a difference. So just another video.
The millennial generation is feeling uneasy about the future. From Industry 4.0 technologies such as robotics and artificial intelligence to political upheavals, millennials and Gen Z want leaders whose decisions will benefit the world and their careers. For this 7th edition, Deloitte surveyed more than 12,000 millennials and Gen Zers globally to understand their perceptions of today's complex world. So what did we learn? First, positive perceptions of business are declining. Millennials' views of businesses' motivations and ethics, which had trended up the past 2 years, took a sharp turn downward, with fewer than half saying businesses behave ethically and are committed to improving society. Second, loyalty levels have fallen to where they were 2 years ago. More than 40% of millennials and more than 60% of Gen Zers say they plan to leave their companies within 2 years. Good pay and positive cultures attract them, but diversity and flexibility are important to keeping them happy. Third, they feel unprepared for Industry 4.0. fewer than 4 in 10 millennials and 3 in 10 Gen Zers believe they have the tools necessary to succeed. They're looking to business to help them, especially to develop soft skills like creativity and interpersonal skills. The message is clear. Millennials and Gen Z are eager for business to make a positive impact in society and focus on employees' needs. Will your organization rise to the occasion? Learn more and download the full report at Deloitte.com/millennial survey.
Okay, good. So please go and have a look at that survey, and there's additional data in there. So my last part of my presentation is just a couple of quick more stats, and then I'm closing. So why should we be focusing on corporate social investment? Yes, it's a trend. You know, the Deloitte survey says social enterprise is the #1 sort of theme. Yes, our millennials want it. You've just seen our millennial employees are asking for organizations and leadership that drive a social enterprise. But also it makes business sense. So just a couple of stats here. A Nielsen study found that 55% of consumers will pay extra for products sold by companies committed to positive social impact. So consumers will very often pay more. Now, I hazard this is, normally in higher priced items. Obviously, if it's a discount thing, that's going to be less of a factor. But there are products and services you provide where consumers will pay more because of the treatment of employees in that process, the fair trade involved in that process. In a long-term study of purpose-focused organizations, and this is also in the Deloitte 2030 report, those that had a purpose-driven organization, so had a purpose and actively drove that, outperformed financially their peers 8 times. So they were 8 times more successful financially, those who had a purpose-driven organization. Also, direct correlations in other studies, and it's all in that report, between CSR and financial results. So it's not a choice. It's not you have to be this or we have to be this. In fact, the one helps the other, leads to the other. A couple of quick examples. So what are people doing? I really like the IBM example. They have given about 3,000 employees across their organization a month off to do a pro bono piece of work in teams in some of their emerging markets. So those teams go together, work cross-functionally, and solve an important community issue in the markets in which they serve. Not only have those people who've been involved in that said that they are much more likely to stay, so it's kind of a mid-career thing. You know, when people think of leaving, they're, maybe this is, the second half of my career, maybe I'm going somewhere else. Those people who went on that month-long cross-functional pro bono work were much more likely to stay. And IBM report that it's one of their most powerful leadership development initiatives you can imagine, because you're learning a lot. Think action project, but think community and social investment. Okay, and then other examples there. Salesforce also gives volunteer time off. Reliance, does it make good sense from a branding perspective? Deloitte is quoted in Fortune because we are one of the top 100 organizations who are doing good. We're number 52. We didn't do it to get that ranking. We did it because we had a CEO and a leadership team that wanted to be purpose-driven. But there's definitely a brand impact that's positive. Reliance, the #1 company in that Fortune article, Indian telco, talking about creating digital oxygen. They want to make data as available, accessible, free as possible. I love that, digital oxygen. And they've also invested in cheap smartphone technologies so that they can really provide access to those who don't have communication and access to communication. And by the way, they're making money at the same time. I think I'm not going to show that video because I think we've done with videos, and I'm just going to close with just some thoughts from the Human Capital Trends report. Back to that then. So kind of some of the guidance and guidelines and lessons learned from the South African respondents around doing good and investing in CSI is definitely looking at local communities. So not only were those more effective, but participants were happier with them. So look local, seek to focus on your local communities rather than a kind of a broader CSI. Secondly, form partnerships. So think ecosystems again. It's incredibly hard, and in fact, maybe you're not the best people at delivering some of this. Maybe this is an ecosystem thing. And be focused in your CSI investment. And very often, education and healthcare came up as priorities for South African respondents. Okay, so that's it from my side. So what I wanted to encourage, I'm not going to hand out a prize for a quiz, but next year I will. But what I am going to say is just to encourage you, Deloitte.com, www.deloitte.com. Please, the survey, the new survey is, first of all, the old survey is there. So please download the survey, read it, use it. But also the new human capital survey has been launched for this year. So I would encourage participation. We love to get the South African number up, so we make sure that the South African view is brought to bear in the global report. So thank you very much from my side for your time. Thanks.